Hi everyone, this is Katie FASCIANO from Seimei Healing. I'm here today to talk to you about Seimei and how it's completely changed my life for the better. I got into Seimei and found Seimei through my journey with my daughter. My eldest daughter was battling cancer for 5 years. She had a stage 4 brain tumor. And at this point, a third battle she was going at. And there wasn't a very good outlook for her longevity in her life at this point. And I thought about asking a friend what she was doing now. She had gone into a lot of different things in the alternative world. And so I asked her, I said, what are you doing now? And she said, I do this thing called Seimei. Come tonight. We're having an open night for the public. So I said, okay, I'll see you there. And off I went with my eldest daughter and my other younger children. And it was incredible. I walked into the space and I felt this inner knowing that I was home. And I felt just enveloped in love in the room. And that really caught my attention. They had my eldest daughter and myself to sit down. They said it was very important, not just for my child that had cancer that really needed the Seimei to receive a session, but also for the mother, because I was her 24-hour, 7-day-a-week caregiver. So I sat down as well as Elizabeth, and we both received Seimei that day. We continued to go twice a week, every week. And a few weeks in, the focus of the Seimei session was to help Elizabeth walk and run better. And I was all on board with that. Her very first surgery at 1 year old left her hemiplegic. And she had gotten back to walking again, but it was not a fluid walk. So this couldn't have been a better focus for the Seimei. They worked on Elizabeth and they said, okay, Elizabeth, go run around the room. And she ran around that room, the most beautiful she'd ever walked or run in her life. It was in that moment I knew this is something I need to learn. I need to be able to do this every single day and as many times as I want during the day, every day, for my daughter and my other children and family. And that's how it all began. Within 2 months, I started learning Seimei, and we're 9 years out now. That was back in January of 2012 that I began Seimei. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the ways Seimei can be used and has been used in the experience with my journey with Seimei. There are so many different ways and wonderful things that Seimei can do in all our lives. Some of the areas where I have been focused were both in cancer and now in this pandemic time, also in the COVID arena. One story I'd like to tell you is about a woman that had hives from head to toe. She was recovered from COVID, but this was just an odd symptom that popped up into her body, and she called me because the traditional medicine didn't have a solution. They, told her to take some antihistamines, which helped lessen the itching, but it wouldn't recover the hives from the COVID. So we set her up with an appointment, and she had a Seimei session. At the end of that session, all pain and itchiness was gone from the hives, and she called me the next day. Every single hive had disappeared from her body by the next day. And she said it was the first time she had felt like herself in a month ever since the beginning of COVID and her journey. So she was super grateful for having Seimei with the fallout of COVID in her body. So another example I wanted to mention is one day one of my children's best friends had come over. She had been running at the pool and she took a fall, and she had this chunk of skin just out of her knee. And mom was worried, saying, oh, now it's going to be a week before she can get back to that swim team. I said, well, let's give it a try. Let's do some Seimei for this. And I proceeded to do Seimei, specifically targeting the as fast as possible to promote the healing in the wound in her knee. And in front of my eyes, I saw the circumference of that chunk out of her knee, as well as the depth of that chunk, both lessen. the circumference came in and the depth was lessening. And I was seeing little droplets that looked like water in there. And I said, wow, what is this? Is it like, sweat going on inside the wound? I don't know. So I actually spoke to a family friend that we have that's a doctor. And she explained that the process I was telling her about was normally the healing process for that chunk of skin, that wound on the knee, would have taken 7 to 9 days. I had spent just a half hour. And she said, that is so incredible. And she said, those little droplets of water, as you called it, they weren't droplets of water. That was actually skin cells reforming within, like in front of me. So it was absolutely, absolutely incredible. The doctor actually was so intrigued by it. She had tried Seimei already, but she wanted to try this concept that it can help with the wounds. So she didn't have, thankfully she didn't have a big wound, but she had been gardening and she had some superficial scratches on her skin. And she said, okay, I know you showed me Seimei, but now I want you to show it on these like little red, tiny little scratches on her arm. And I did. And that's what really blew her away, because she was seeing, even in just a more modest way of a little scratch, that scratch was, instead of, being a couple inches long, was reducing and reducing. And so she got to experience and see with her own eyes how the Seimei was promoting the healing. It's absolutely incredible. And Seimei does so much for humans, but it also does for animals, for plants. I'd love to tell you a story of an animal that was in my yard. There's a little baby deer, and this baby deer got very confused. It got stuck between the fence and my house and a little smaller fence that takes the front of the lawn and the back of the lawn and blocks it off. And so the deer was just so confused. It was hitting into the fence, running back, hitting into my house, running back and forth, bang, 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 bang. And I said, I've got to do something for this deer. And thankfully, Seimei can be done from a distance, just like it can be in person with someone. And so from a distance, maybe 10, 15 feet away from it, because I didn't want to scare it anymore, I started doing Seimei for the deer. Within minutes, I no longer heard the bang, bang, bang. I looked around. The deer was gone. The Seimei had calmed that deer down enough for it to remember, oh, I just have to jump over the fence and I'll be free. And there it was. It went off and running, and it was a wonderful thing to see that it wasn't stuck anymore and it wasn't so flustered and hurting itself. An example of plants. One day I was in my yard and I was cutting some hydrangeas. I was visiting a friend in the hospital. The hospital drive was quite far, and I didn't have the flowers in water. So by the time maybe an hour and a half came around, I got to the hospital and the flowers were wilted. And I felt real bad. The friend was appreciative even though they were wilted. And I said, well, you don't have to worry. I'm going to do Seimei to the flowers, and that's going to help the flowers. So the flowers were quite wilted. And as I worked and did Seimei with the flowers, they were perking up and perking up and perking up. Well, by the next day, my girlfriend had to send me a picture. She was so astounded by what they looked like. It looked like hydrangeas still on the bush. They were so perfect once again. So that Seimei in the moment helps, and by the next day, wow, even more so. It's been such an incredible, fascinating thing to see all the different ways, and many, many more that there are. And I want to also explain to you, there are tools that can be used for myself, sure, as a Seimei practitioner, but there's tools that can be used for everyone out there. Our founder, Toshishika Hiraki, has made something called charms. These charms are little round hyperallergenic stickers, and they can go on the torso. They can go on, a human. They can go on an animal. They can go on a plant. They can go on cups. They can go on, your cell phone. So many very things that the Seimei in the charms can be used for. An example for you. One of my clients was job searching, and she wanted to know how Seimei could help her with that job search. And so I brought up the charms, and I said, well, this is what you need to do. You want to write out an intention on a piece of paper of what you want. What is that job that you're looking for and seeking? And what you do is you put that charm, that Seimei charm, right on the piece of paper. And then you're going to want to monitor how things are going after that, recording what has happened and how it's happened. And absolutely, you want to acknowledge when that job comes, because there's a lot of people, especially now in this pandemic, that are looking for jobs, searching for jobs, and it's not as easy. So if you have a little bit of an edge, Seimei can give that edge to you. And you can do that through ordering Seimei charms. And a practitioner can always help in that journey to help you to navigate how best to write it, what to monitor with it, and that's just a little snippet. That there's other ways. There's wonderful, wonderful ways where charms can be used to bring lightness to your food and your drinks. It can help your like with injuries. We use them in our Seimei sessions for our clients, where we're going to specifically, strategically put them in certain areas which would be over organs in your body to help promote continued healing after that session. These charms, as you're switching them out, will have 24/7 Seimei helping your body from the first session to the next session. Just continuous positive motion. And there's also, if you're buying charms and you're not working with someone with Seimei, there's tools that I tell you about in a workshop where you can specifically put a charm in a specific area, depending what the problem is. If you have a sore shoulder, if you have, a twisted ankle, or a stomach ache. It's so many different varying ways that it can be used. I want to also mention to you, Seimei is not something unique to myself. Seimei can be learned by anyone. There is the seimeifoundation.org that teaches Seimei, and it is a journey. And it's a process. It takes about 8 to 12 months to learn it. And there's a lot of continuing practice that goes along with it. And one of the most incredible things is there's a week-long trip to Japan. This trip is just out of this world. It is so incredible, and it's just such an amazing experience. There is so much healing in that journey. There's so much lightness in the journey, and it's such an incredible feeling, because when you go to Japan, you could be with thousands of other people that are all doing Seimei too, and just that oneness of everyone in the room is just something that you have to go there and experience for yourself. There's really no words to put to it of how incredible of an experience it is. So another way to get involved with Seimei is you can get sessions. Myself and others are available for sessions, and I'm also partnering with a company. The website is livingtheabundant.com, and they have 3 and 12-month programs where you will get a chance to work with myself and a few of my other partners that will really take on the whole body. Seimei is focused in on the spiritual, the soul part of your body, but then there's going to be also the mind and the body. So all three together. And this program is wonderful, wonderful. You work with them once a week, and you rotate between myself and the others. And you can, find out more about me and my story at seimeihealing.com. And once again, to learn about Seimei and learn it for yourself is the seimeifoundation.org. So I have 6 months after I started learning Seimei, we got some pretty bad news with Elizabeth's journey. Doctors saw on an MRI that her disease had progressed in quite a severe way. They said there was nothing left to try. She had all the chemos, radiation, stem cell transplant, every kind of thing we could have tried, we've tried. And doctors approximated that she would have 2 more weeks to live. This was such tough news for myself and the rest of the family. And I did have Seimei, though, and that was an extreme advantage. I went and had a phone call with one of our teachers of Seimei and asked, what are we going to do now? And she told me, she said, well, actually, we have an advantage now. Seimei can now try to find the source of that disease. This whole time when Elizabeth's been on her chemos and other medications, we've been having to battle the symptoms of those medications rather than getting to the cause. So this gave me a little bit of hope in a very dark time. And we proceeded to use a lot of Seimei, multiple times a day, every day, for Elizabeth. And during the time she continued to live, she actually lived not just 2 weeks, but another 9 months. And in that duration of gift of every single extra moment past those 2 weeks that I was given, so many things the Seimei helped with. For instance, doctors sent Elizabeth home saying she's going to need morphine to control her pain for the extent of tumors that now were in her brain and as well as in the spine. We didn't end up using morphine. I would have if I needed to, but thankfully Seimei was controlling pain that needed morphine, according to doctors. That right there was a huge gift. Elizabeth, earlier in her battle, needed morphine. And we didn't have something like Seimei, so we had no choice. We had to give her morphine. But that took a little young 1-year-old from an energetic self to sleeping all the time, and then, not being able to go to the bathroom because everything got slowed down from that morphine. It helped with the pain, but it definitely came with its side effects. Now in these months additional that she lived and we could use Seimei instead of the pain medicine, what a tremendous gift. She was present all the time. She was with us. She was interacting. She didn't have as extensive of bathroom issues as she would have if she was on pain medicine. Some of the other things that had helped in that journey for her was at times she was having trouble swallowing. And we didn't have other interventions. She didn't have like IV hydration at home or kind of any IV foods, nutrition. So we really needed her to be able to chew and swallow. And using Seimei, that came back to her. She had a few days where she wasn't able to drink or eat because she wasn't able to swallow. But within a few days, having that as our focus, we were able to return that ability of swallowing again to her. Another thing was, she was having some breathing difficulties. But when she would have breathing difficulties appear, we would use Seimei. And we were able to regulate the breathing through Seimei. Another super incredible thing was about a month before she passed, she had a little bit of blood that pooled in her ear. And I called the visiting nurse to ask what's going on. And she said, well, those are the capillaries bursting in her ear, and that's due to the pressure building in her head. And that bleeding isn't going to stop until she passes away. I said, thank you. Let me call my Seimei teacher. So I called the Seimei teacher and said, what do we do now? And together, my Seimei teacher and I in person and her from a distance, worked for about 20, 30 minutes. And at the end of that time, The bleeding stopped, and for the additional month that Elizabeth lived, never another drop of blood was in her ear. So that, too, was a gift, not to have to see her bleeding. And she, for me, I am so very grateful for every single extra moment in that journey that we had with Elizabeth. It made such a difference. Her little sisters got to be 4.5 and almost 2 before she passed. So they are able to have their own memories of their sister, especially the little one may have not had memories of her sister if her sister died right at the beginning there when she was, much, much younger. And after unfortunately we lost Elizabeth, I knew about another child who also was suffering from a brain tumor, and doctors had given her no more options. And they gave her about 3 weeks to live, this child. And I would go and see the child twice a week, every week, to give her sessions. And thankfully, even just twice a week, once a day, twice a week, instead of just 3 weeks, that child lived another 4 to 5 months past what doctors thought. And the mom was super, super appreciative of that extra time that she had with her daughter. And for me, I went in July of 2013 for my trip to Japan. And this was an incredible, amazing trip. And for me, as a mom of young children, I didn't go anywhere. I never left them. The only time I ever was away from them overnight was when I was in the hospital giving birth to another child. Otherwise, I was always there. But for Seimei, you go to Japan and have this incredible trip. So when my kids were 2 and 4.5, almost 5 now at this point, I did that trip. I went halfway across the world for Seimei to be able to, continue with my learnings. And it was such a gift as a young mother to have that week of, focusing on me and focusing on, this passion of mine called Seimei. And it was just beyond words, the experience. And I'm so appreciative to our founder, Hiraki Kaiso. He was born with this ability to do Seimei. And he didn't understand as he was, a kid growing up, why couldn't other people do Seimei? I can just do this. It was just something he was born with. And once he turned 18, he decided he was going to dedicate his life to figuring out a way to be able to teach others how to learn Seimei. And, he didn't do any quick processes in this case. He went ahead and he went and got a medical degree and a psychology degree so that he had a very good knowledge of both the body and the mind. And he brought the Seimei that he innately knew and brought all 3 of those things to meld them together. And he worked on tens of thousands of individuals to come up with this perfect basic form to be able to teach others. And he's had much success in doing that because he's now taught over 20,000 practitioners. Most of them are in Japan. But the next biggest spot is in America, where our Seimei practitioners are. The only 2 places in the world you can learn Seimei are in Japan and in America. So we're very blessed and fortunate that we have a few teaching centers here in America, and we really hope that this becomes more and more internationally known. So I want to talk about a woman that I worked with that was in a walking cast. The doctors had told her it was going to be a 6-month process 6-week process to get out of that boot. And she was really antsy to be in this boot. Plus, her other leg was hurting because now she's walking off balance. And I spoke to her at week 3. And I said, let's get a Seimei session for you. You're monitoring at the doctor's every 2 weeks with x-rays to see how it's going. Let's do it on week 3. A week later, you're going to get that x-ray. Let's see if Seimei can speed up the recovery so that you can be out of your walking boot 2 weeks early. So we did the Seimei session for her, And a week later, she went to the doctor, she got the x-ray, and next thing I know, she has no boot on. She was thrilled. So thankfully, the Seimei was helping her to speed up that recovery. Another child I worked with that was battling COVID, she was 5 days out from the battle, and the COVID had weakened her legs. It's kind of something that she deals with any major illness. Her legs become very weakened. At times, she could even be in a wheelchair. And this time, she wasn't in the wheelchair. She wasn't that progressed, but she was very weak in the legs. And so I worked with her, and she couldn't believe it when she got up. She's like, "Mom, I feel a little better." The mom explained to me, she goes, "My daughter has never, in just this short period of time, ever had anything help her to even feel a tiny bit better." So the mom and the daughter were so amazed. "Yeah, Mom, this has helped me." And by the next day, she was running and dancing around the house and wanted to get back to all her activities, could not believe it. Her sister also was dealing with COVID, and I worked with her sister as well. Her sister was on day 5 of a headache, and I worked with her sister to help reduce that headache in the moment. And by the next day, her headache was gone. She was so grateful because it was a horrible, horrible headache that was not letting up for 5 days straight. And I worked with a man who was in the deep, dark journey of alcoholism. And at this point, when his wife called me, he was in a hotel and he was refusing to come home. He was kind of in a binging time and just wouldn't listen to his wife, wouldn't listen to his siblings, not anyone. And he didn't, again, like no one could make a breakthrough. So I said, okay, I can do a long distance session for him. And the session didn't even finish. And he already had called his wife and said, "I will go to rehab. It's a Saturday. I will start on Monday when they open for new clients again. I will go." And he did. And he's sober today. What a beautiful thing to see that transition for him. I worked with a doctor who had just had an allergy shot. And so he was itchy on his arm. I only spent moments with him, and he was so very grateful. Even just moments of Seimei took away the itch from that allergy shot. His nurse practitioner had been working out at the gym earlier that day, and she said, "Well, I have sore muscles like here in my back, see what you can do." So again, only worked for moments, and the soreness was gone. She said, "I might have to hire you daily to come to the gym with me so I don't have to deal with these sore muscles that I do every day." It's just been wonderful. And another woman that had shoulder issues, she said, "Gosh, a few months back you showed me a short demonstration, and I was really impressed by it. When this shoulder issue started up on me, I thought about calling the orthopedist. But then I remembered that Seimei demonstration you gave me, and I said, let me give Seimei a try." She came in for 2 weekly appointments back to back. She has not had a problem since. She actually saw me at a party a few months later, and she goes, "Did Katie tell you about what she did? Look at me." And her shoulder was so much better. So she was really proud and happy and really thankful for what Seimei did for her. And it's been great. There's a little boy I want to tell you about that. He went to the pool and ended up his eyes hurt him so bad from the chlorine. And we were at a common venue for a week long together. So he went, his eyes were hurting, he was crying, and I went up to Dad. I said, I could help him. And so I did just a small bit about a Seimei, and his eyes felt better. The next day, he went back to the pool. He's a kid, he wants to swim. And once again, he had pain in his eyes. This time he said to his mom, "Could you find me that lady? She did that thing and helped my eyes feel better." So the mom walked up to me and found me, and I was able to help him the second day in a row. So he was really, really happy for that. And it's so gratifying to work with all these people. It's been a pleasure talking with all of you today. Again, I'm Katie from Seimei Healing, and you can find me at seimeihealing.com. Thanks so much. Take care.